want to know something different as it relates to your finances, and you want to make some changes. So I'm going to start by saying, welcome to Vegas. Why am I saying welcome to Vegas? Because what goes on in Vegas, thank you. So let me start by saying I'm not here to judge anybody. I don't want you all to judge each other. I want you to take this opportunity to share, to be transparent, and we're going to learn some stuff. We're going to do some things. We're going to try a couple of small exercises. I'm not going to be before you long. I just want you to walk home with some different mindset than what you came in. So speaking of sharing, I have some gifts. You only can get a gift if you share, participate in any way. Fair enough? Most of the stuff in this basket is going to relate to what we're talking about, which is getting your finances in order, right? Fun stuff. Weekly to-do list, stuff like that. However, I have a little teeny bit of fun stuff for the ladies, but I'll let you choose what you want. And who's going to be responsible for making sure the person that shares gets the gift? Kia, thank you, darling. So you get to pick a gift first. Okay, so speaking of Vegas, right? And speaking of being transparent, speaking of only one gift. See, look at all through the basket, one gift.
I was like, I know what you're talking about.
Right. So speaking of being transparent, I'm going to tell you a little story about me. And those of you who already know this story, just bear with me. Hello, come on in. Hi. You know what? I think there's some pads down there. You guys can grab and can you get an extra pad? And extra pad. So just to reiterate, we're just getting started, so you guys are right on time. We're going to share, we're going to be transparent, we're going to be honest with each other, and if you share or participate, he is going to give you a gift. But before I get started, I want to share a story about me. And for those of you who know the story already, just bear with me. Some of you are very close to me and some just don't know the story. So, I am right now President and CEO of Beanie Financial Group upstairs, right? Wonderful office, been in business on my own since 2002. I'm in a good space right now. God has blessed me doing my own thing, right? But I have to say I wasn't always there. I wasn't always in that place that I'm in right now. So let me give you an example. I worked at USF&G as a senior accountant. Everything was great, everything's all good, but they decided that they wanted to move their headquarters to St. Paul, Minnesota. Well, those of you who know me know I'm not going to leave my mom. So I was no point in me worrying about going to St. Paul, Minnesota. So needless to say, I was laid off from USF&G. Now keep in mind, while I was at USF&G, God was placing in my spirit to do my own thing. And I don't know about you all, but who knows what happens when you're not obedient? I'm just saying. I wasn't being obedient. And why? Because I was fearful. I was afraid, right? So I got laid off, okay? A couple weeks, maybe a month after I was laid off, my 6-year-old daughter was diagnosed with cancer. Okay, God, what you doing? Trying to figure this out. A couple weeks later, my husband loses his job, gets laid off. So now I'm mad at the world, right? Anybody been there? Mad at the world. Like, what is going on here? And I still had a 13-year-old son that I had to pay attention to, right? I'm spiraling, don't know what's going on. Medical bills are coming in. And I felt like I was spiraling down this dark, black hole. Am I the only one that's ever been there? But guess what, you all? I got out of that hole. I got out of that hole. I I started my own business. And trust me when I say it was not easy. But I made some changes. I made some changes in my mind and my thought process. And that allowed me to claw my way out of that hole to where I needed to be. So I made in my mind that I was going to make this change. And what does that say? It says that the transformation begins here. The transformation begins here. It begins with you. It can't begin with somebody in your ear. It can't begin with, chatter. It has to begin here and here. And so with that being said, I'm going to read this poem to you all. Erica, this poem is going to resonate with you. Because the first time we heard this poem, we were like, wow. Very simple poem, but it says a lot. If you always do what you've always done, then you always will get what you have always got. Simple. If you want something that you have never had, then you have to do something that you've never done. If you always think the way you have always thought, then you will always get what you have always got. Simple. But what an aha moment, right? It's telling you that the transformation begins with you, and you have to do some different things. So, I challenge you to make this evening the beginning of your new journey towards financial prosperity. Now, don't get me wrong, you're not going to wake up tomorrow and you're going to be wealthy, right? What I'm telling you today is baby steps towards where you want to be. That's the whole purpose of this particular workshop, is just making baby steps toward where you want to be. But if your actions and your feelings change on the inside, then I promise you, you'll see something different on the outside. Is that fair enough? Financial success isn't about money. It's about what you think about money, right? People equate financial success with things, material things. But that's not really financial success, because you can look at the wealthy and see that just because they have money, they're not happy in most cases. So it's not about money, it's about what you think about money. So part of this journey is first assessing where you are. So part of this whole workshop is just being true to yourself. You don't have to pay attention to what your neighbor's doing. You don't have to look on anybody's sheet. It's about being true to you, right? And being true to the fact that, okay, I want to make a difference starting today. Fair enough? So we're going to take a self-assessment. So your pad that's in front of you, what I'm going to ask you to do is just write number 1, yes or no. Number 2, yes or no. Number 3, yes or no. Okay? The first question. I have nothing close to a reasonable knowledge of my income, fixed expenses, irregular expenses, and net worth. Simple, yes or no.
You say yes if you do and no if you don't.
Yes. I am near, at, or over the limit on my credit cards. Don't peek on your neighbor's paper. Although we said we were going to be honest and transparent here. I have bounced more than 3 checks in the past year. Did I hear some clearing of the throat? I often use this month's income to cover last month's bills. And if at any point during this entire presentation I'm stepping on your toes, just say ouch real loud so everybody can hear. I can't imagine living without credit. I've never been concerned about money because I have a spouse who takes care of it.
No, I'm just gonna be transparent. I don't mind saying that.
I worry about money quite a bit. I lose sleep thinking about my finances. Are the wheels turning, or are these easy questions for you guys? I don't have a formal savings plan. If I had more money, I'd be just fine. I've taken a, that's a good question. Yeah, we're gonna talk about that in a minute. I've taken a cash advance on one credit card to make the payment on another credit card. Ow, I'm hearing some owls. And the last one, I have no clue what my credit score is. So take a minute and add up your yeses. And then add up your no's. No whispering, you have to say it out loud, no, I'm just joking. Anybody need a calculator? If you, I have no clue what my credit, I have no clue what my credit score is. Yes. You know what, don't include that. Don't include that. Yeah, don't include that. That was the very last one, don't include that. Because I did it upside down. Number one, and let me know if you need me to read any of the other ones. I have nothing close to a reasonable knowledge of my income, fixed expenses, irregular expenses, and net worth. So in other words, you don't know what your financial picture looks like
So then that would be yes.
if you don't have a clue, right?
Oh, wait.
Okay.
So wait a minute.
Yeah, if you don't know what your financial picture looks like, you don't know what your net worth is, you don't really pay attention to your expenses, then the answer to that would be yes. Do I need to read any other ones? Good? So if you answered no to all of these questions, you are my shero or my hero. Did anybody in here answer no to all of those questions? Yeah, okay. If you answered yes to one or two of these questions, you're pretty responsible with your expenses. But the questions that you answered yes to, just pay attention to them. Fair? 3 to 5 yeses are definite signs that you really, really need to start paying better attention to your financial picture. Any owls? Yes. Okay. And if you have 6 or more, you need to call me tomorrow. If you have 6 or more, you really, really need to think about making some serious changes in your finances. Because if you have 6 or more, you remember that hole that I just told you about? That I was spiraling down into? That's where you're going. And I'm not going to ask you guys to share. But what this is saying to you is A, I need to get it together. Or B, I'm not as bad as I thought I was. Okay? So let's talk about the struggle. Because the struggle is real. Right? The struggle is real. What I want you to do right now is I want you to write down 3 reasons why you are struggling financially. And if you're not struggling financially, then write down 3 things that you can do better in your finances. Oh, you're not?
Engage.
Yeah. Oh, you guys are thinking hard. Okay, so I'm gonna come over here and just draw your attention in this direction for a minute. I'm gonna ask Kia to get the basket,
Okay.
because now I'm gonna ask you guys to be honest with the group. Is anybody willing to share where they're having financial difficulty? Pam?
Okay, the biggest thing for me is self-employment income, which is inconsistent income.
Yep.
It's not steady.
And I'm gonna say something about that, because, yeah. Anybody else? Carol?
I feel like I have not used my voice in asking for a raise.
That's a good one. Anybody
I
else?
wasn't done.
That's right. She said, I got more to say. Okay.
Overextending myself.
Overextending yourself.
Yeah.
Overextending yourself meaning what?
As far as, putting myself out there, thinking that, stealing money from Peter to pay Paul to, do what I want to do.
Oh, okay, got it, got it. Did she get a gift?
Is overextending kind of like overspending?
That
Yeah.
too.
Is that,
Is that you? Overextending, spending? Anybody else?
Yeah.
we'll have one.
Okay,
Frivolous spending,
I don't know how to spell that.
frivolous,
Frivolous spending. All right, you wouldn't give me a word I couldn't
Hyphenated.
spell.
That's good.
Anybody else?
I just don't have a budget.
No
So
budget.
I don't know what I'm spending.
Okay, that's a good one. All right, anybody else want to share? And make sure she gets a gift, you're not on your JOB. Make sure she gets a
I'm
gift.
so sorry.
What was yours, Kia?
It was frivolous, spending, no budget, and,
You have all of these? And what was that?
and, unorganized, I just have I'm just not organized.
Ayana, you had another one? You guys are good at this.
Being timely with paying bills, so.
Yeah, paying bills on time.
Then you try to catch up to compensate, and then you kind of spiral, because that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah. So, most of these, we're going to touch on as we, Beverly?
One for me is no plan.
No plan.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we're going to talk about that too. Okay. So most of these, make sure Beverly gets a gift.
Mine is, I don't know if that belongs up there or not, but, I guess because I'm self-employed and I don't bring in income like I'm supposed, like I need to,
Mm-hmm.
and, I feel guilty because the kids need things,
We're
so
going to
I
touch on that. That's a
pulling
good
money
one.
from where.
Yeah, that's a good one. We're going to touch on that one. So we're going to touch on,
I have, I don't see mine up there,
Okay.
but, I just wanna add, saving for retirement,
okay.
and, I'm married to your sister. So I don't know where that
I'm married to.
I don't know where you put
Say,
that.
retirement
you know.
savings married to Pam.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay,
Thanks.
got it.
Thank you so much.
So most of these we're going to touch on, right? The one that I don't have as a part of my presentation is self-employment income, and I'm not gonna go deep into that because it's not a lot of self-employed people here. But one thing I would suggest is when you have self-employment income, you're gonna have valleys and peaks. Welcome, welcome, thanks for coming. You're gonna have peaks and valleys. When you have peaks, you can't spend like it's a peak. You have, she's about you can't spend like it's a peak. You have to take your average expenses, and if you make $2,000 in a month and your expenses are $1,000, then you need to put that other $1,000 away for when you have a valley, right? Does that make sense? That's a very hard thing for self-employed people. But if you create a budget and you allocate when you have peaks and valleys and not overspend or not spend when you think you have extra, then that should help that a little bit, okay? Unorganized, asking for a raise. So that goes back to, it starts here and here, because it's about fear. It's about fear. So as I'm going to say to you later in this presentation, put your big girl pants on and go do what you have to do, because the question is, how bad do you want to get out of where you are? How bad do you want the extra money? So we've got to start again with the mindset and feeling good enough to say, walk in there and do what you have to do. Reminds me of the commercial where the girl has she's trying to practice what she's going to say to her boss. If you never let them see you sweat commercial, you got to do it. Just do it. We're going to talk a little bit about frivolous spending and overspending. Retirement savings, part of that is just budgeting. And we have to, and we're going to talk about this a little bit too, and that's saving for anything we want, which includes retirement, right? So I'm going to add to this. I'm going to add to this list. One of the things I would say that's causing financial strife with people is discipline. Just being spoiled. I want what I want. We're a microwave generation, and we want it now. We don't want to wait for it. Just being spoiled. And it's interesting to me that nobody just right out said, just lack of funds. And so if lack of funds is one of your issues, you got two choices, right? You either make more money or you spend less. It's not rocket science. I remember working 2 jobs. I remember studying for the CPA exam at 10 o'clock with baby in hand and bottle in mouth. Get your hustle on. Bottom line, do what you have to do to make the difference. Because why? It starts here. I can't make you get your hustle on. You got to get that hustle on all by yourself. But if you want to change, you have to do it. Right? Another one, keeping up with the Joneses, living beyond our means. Okay, well, my next door neighbor has a Benz. She can't outdo me, so I need to get a Benz. Nothing wrong with a Benz, nothing wrong with BMW, nothing wrong with Range Rover. Same. But if it's something that you can't afford, then just think about it. Why are you moving around? What I want you to do is I want you to live below your means. Live below your means. Just because you make it doesn't mean you have to spend it. Right? Another one. Disorganized. Kia said that. We're going to talk about that in a little. We're going to talk about that a little bit. That's you too, guys. And another one that no one said is poor credit. Credit is everything. Credit is you paying $1,500 for a mortgage versus you paying $2,500 for that same mortgage. And that $1,000 difference that could be going into your savings or that could be going into your retirement. So if you don't know what your credit score is, get it together. Start looking at those things. Because people tend to take credit as out of sight, out of mind. I don't see it, I know it's bad, I don't wanna look at it. Stop laughing, Ben. I don't wanna look at it, because I know if I look at it, it's gonna look crazy. But credit is everything. Credit can make the difference in all that you do, and it's unfortunate that credit is as important as it is, because sometimes the credit scores are unfair, I'm just gonna be honest. But it's important. Credit is very, very, very important. And I wish my husband wasn't in here for this one. And I think somebody else said it. But it's just telling children no.
Ouch, ouch, ouch. Keep going. Ouch.
Telling our children no. Not wanting them to be without, not letting them struggle. But we're taking out of our savings to give to them. That's an issue. It's an issue. It can hurt you from a financial perspective. So there's someone in this room that says this to me often. And that statement is, if I made more money, I would be fine. I'm not going to name the person that says that to me often. But he says, if I made more money, I would be fine. Who agrees with that statement? Be fair.
All of them.
Okay. That might be true if you manage the money that you have. If you can't manage the money that you're currently making, what makes you think when you make more it's going to make a difference? And I'm going to give you a prime example. I have 2 clients, well, a couple. The first couple, they make about $350 plus a year, right? The second couple together make about $85 to $90 a year. The $350,000 couple, they live paycheck to paycheck. The $90,000 couple, they've got money in the bank, they're contributing to their retirement, they got it going on. So that's a prime example of, it's not about how much you make, it's about what you do with what you have. So I can agree with that statement to a certain extent. Understood? So, how do we get beyond the point that we just talked about? How do we get beyond all of that, right? What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a couple of tips. I'm going to give you a couple of challenges to get us out of a place of struggle. And keep in mind, all of these points may not work for you, but you take what works for you and you go from there. So the first one is, put yourself on a financial diet. So my first challenge to you is take a pad. I give you a pad, use that pad, or use the pad that I gave you, and take 30 days, right, and write down all of your expenses for 30 days. If you get a latte every morning, write that down. If you eat out 2-3 times a week, whatever the case may be, write it down. If you buy your lunch at work, write that down. Now, this will not work if you alter your spending habit. Nobody's looking over your shoulder, nobody's holding you accountable, nobody knows what you're writing down but you. So be true to yourself and write down for 30 days where your money is going. And what this exercise is going to do is it's going to bring clarity as to where you're spending your money. And in addition to that, it will show you where you can cut expenses. Because you would be surprised, $10 here, $20 there, $30 here, that adds up, right? So once you write that down, then pay attention to where your money is going and say, oh, I could cut that out. Or, honey, instead of going to dinner 4 times a month, let's go 2 times a month. That'll save us $100 that we can put in our budget that we're gonna talk about in a minute. But it'll only work if you're fair and true to yourself. So that's my first challenge for the day.
We should do this in January, right, because the next
Need
couple
somebody
of
who's
months.
Need somebody who's gonna say Christmas.
Christmas shopping and Thanksgiving and all that.
And so, here's the issue with that. Here's my issue with that. I would agree with you, and if I were sitting in your space, I would probably say, I'm not doing this in January, because I gotta do this, that, and the other. But the problem is, you won't do it in January. You just won't. So, to circumvent that, the stuff that you don't normally buy, like Thanksgiving food and stuff like that, just don't include that in your what you're writing down. Christmas, you know, that's not stuff that you normally do. But if you're buying your lunch, if you're eating out, if you're, you know, doing stuff like, write that stuff down on your paper. And at the end of the 30-day period, if you're a couple, sit down and look at it and say, where can we cut? Can we eat $100 out of here somewhere that we can put into our budget? You would be surprised. Some people might even be able to come up with $200, $300 when they see how much they're spending on lunch every day, how much they're spending on lattes every day. That stuff is expensive. And I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying this is some areas where you might want to think about cutting back.
Put bills and stuff on there too.
Yeah, put your bills on there.
Just leave the lattes alone, I'm looking at it.
Yeah, about that.
Right.
So this seems like a pretty simple statement. Tell your money where to go. So Althea was having fun with the PowerPoint, but okay. So tell your money where to go instead of wondering where it went. You have to be purposeful with your money. If you don't have a budget, your money doesn't know where to go. So, who already has a budget? Oh my gosh. We had meaning you're not using it. It's written up on the mirror and everything.
We
like-
got it. We got one.
Okay, so nobody raised their hand. It's in my head. Yeah, no, that's not working. So, the budget is paramount to your financial success. Let me say that one more time. The budget is, oh, don't do like that. The budget is paramount to your financial success. So let me ask this question. If you had a budget, and let's say your income was $2,000, let's say your expenses were $1,500. What's that 500 at the bottom? Anybody? What's that considered? Extra money, play money. Wrong. Wrong. Repeat after me. There is no such thing as extra money.
Why? Just why?
Why? She said die, just die. There's no such thing as extra money. Whatever that bottom line is, be it $500, $1,000, $50, that money has to be accounted for. If you just have that $500 or that $1,000 at the end of your budget and it's not accounted for, you know what's going to happen to it? You're going to waste it. You're going to waste it. Did you get a gift?
No,
Where's the bag?
Sorry.
You're fine.
That's a God.
So there's no such thing as extra money. All money should be accounted for. If you don't account for it, it's going to go down what I consider a black hole. So let me tell you another story. Couples in my office were doing financial planning. We're sitting there, we're working out their budget, right? they had about $1,200 left over. And so I said, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, okay, it looks like, this is your income, these are your expenses, so we've got about $1,200 left over that we can, allocate to different places. Well, she looked at him and he looked at her and they're scratching their heads, and I said, what's wrong? They said, you sure? Let's go over those numbers again, because there's no way we can have $1,200 left over a month. I said, okay. Sat down, made sure I had the income right, went through all the expenses. I'm still coming up with $1,200. And they're looking at each other like they both have two heads. And you know why they didn't know about this $1,200 that's been wasted? Because they didn't have a budget. If you don't have a budget, you don't know where your money is going. Yes, ma'am.
So my question is, if you already feel like you're, like Pam said, robbing Peter to pay Paul, and you feel like you're behind, and when you make that budget, it's like I still don't see how I'm making it work for me when I'm trying to play catch up.
So I'm going to go back to my original statement, because I'm not going to profess to be a miracle worker and say, poof, this is your budget and it's fixed. I'm going to say, you've got to get your hustle on. You've got to figure out a way to either look at that budget and figure out a way to decrease expenses, or you have to increase your income. There's only two ways you can go. And if you're in a position where neither one of those things work, then you need to go a step further and start talking to your creditors to see if you can pay a smaller payment so that you can get to a point where you can budget and at least pay them a minimum of something. Now, granted, is that going to mess up your credit? Yes. But you can't continue to rob Peter to pay Paul, because that's still messing up your credit. But at least you have something in place where you can say, okay, I got $2,000 a month that I have to allocate, and make it work for you. And some of you are going to struggle through that for a minute. And again, when I started this, I said, you're not going to wake up and your finances are going to be miraculously changed. But you've got to make baby steps to get to a point where you don't have that situation. So here's another technique that a lot of my clients have tried, and they didn't do it for years, but at least it kind of got them in the right mindset, and it's called the envelope technique, right? So your budget sets the tone for your entire financial plan, and it should be a living and a breathing document, right? So let me back up from the envelope technique for a second. If you sit down and write out your budget, right? You sit down and your budget looks real pretty, and you all discuss it and you're comfortable with it, right? And then you do this. And you sit it on the shelf. Then you just wasted an hour that it took you to do it, and you got nothing accomplished. So my next challenge, before I get into the envelope technique, is one, before this month is out, sit down with your spouse or your significant other or whoever, or if you're single, just sit down by yourself and write out your budget, okay? You should look at this budget every time you do your bills. Because if you don't keep paying attention to it, it's almost like a business plan. If you don't keep looking at it and paying attention to it, then you really don't have a plan. So you have to look at it. So if budgeting is hard and you keep going off budget and you keep running into issues, then try this envelope technique. So the way this works is you get a box of envelopes, and let's say your budget is $100 for gas for the month, $100 for lunch for the month, $200 for entertainment. Just give you some examples. You put the cash in those envelopes and you label them: food, lunch, gas, whatever it is. Especially entertainment, right? When that money is gone, it's gone, right? And so for stuff like gas, if you use it all up and you know that you need more, then that tells you that you need to adjust your budget the next month. That means that your budget is too low for the gas line item. Does that make sense? But for stuff, frivolous stuff, that you put in your budget, because you can have frivolous stuff if you put it in your budget. It's about planning, saving, and then spending. So you can have this frivolous stuff if it's in your budget. But once it's gone, because what happens is, if you're using your debit credit card, you're not paying attention to how much you're spending. You're not. And if you're famous for that, stop using it. Just stop using it.
Personal test, I used to do this when I was younger, like cash. This one, I will hold on to cash. I will hold on to.
And use your debit card instead.
I will hold, no, but if you give me cash and if I have a check, I mean, don't write a check to me, because I won't cash it forever. But but if I don't have it, I am like just swipe, and I don't even look at I don't even look at the price, it's just
Right,
swipe.
because you
But
know
when that money's gone,
it's
I'm
gone.
like, oh, shoot.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's true for credit cards too. If you're buying using a credit card, you almost feel like you're getting it for free. Why? Because you thought you had. I mean, when I was in college, you know, the credit card company came to the college. Citibank, signed up, I got my credit card and using it, and then here they come calling me wanting money. It's like, oh, I'm gonna pay for this. But that's how that's how the use of credit cards are. It's almost like you feel like you're getting something for free. So if you think that you're not disciplined enough to follow your budget, and I'm not saying do it indefinitely, try the envelope technique, okay? This is one of my most important tips. Plan for everything. Plan for everything. Save first and spend later. Save for what you want. Instead of buying on credit, save for it and then buy it. So if you had a vision board, and let's pretend your yellow pad is your vision board. Write down 3 things that would go, tangible things that would go on your vision board. What would go on your vision board? Tangible things. Tangible things that you would want. Write down 3 things that would go on your vision board.
Anything?
Yeah, as long as it's tangible. Anybody want to share? Yeah, it can be frivolous. It's a vision board. I said 3 things. Anybody want to share? What's your name?
Shawnees.
Shawnees.
Well, my 3 things were, I said definitely my own home / property.
Slash what?
/ property.
Okay.
A couple acres of land. I said a new car because I've never had a new car. I've always had a used car.
Okay.
And then I also said, well, I guess it's the same thing as a home, but I said a vacation home or a
Right.
timeshare.
Okay. I like those. Anybody else want to share? Take a gift out of the basket. Anybody else?
In golf club,
Golf club.
do bike, and I want a workspace. I want to just go on the street.
Oh, okay. For your business? Bow ties. Gotcha.
I want
all the bills to be paid on time, to pay off the student loans, and, swimming for my son.
Swimming lessons for your son?
He's special needs, so.
Okay. Anybody else?
Work on, I want to work on doing things for the house.
Okay.
I want another car, and I like to have a gym downstairs.
Anybody else?
I put down vacation homes, 2 of them, and apartment buildings.
That's called being specific about what you want. That's about being specific about what you want. I'm not mad at you. Anybody else?
Oh, yeah. I said a vacation/cruise, a home gym, and to remodel our bathroom.
Okay. Those are pretty good visual. Those are good tangible things. And so what I would say to you, and nobody said anything that I would say you can't